Welcome to TradeTheNBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 14th. Happens to be my birthday at the same time. But we're looking at the NQ to start with, just because it's still stuck right at the peak point. Continued rising shakeout, but a little bit weaker than what we've seen from the ES. And that's an interesting one because if we go to the ES, you can see it's already broken out past it. Very strong with its cyan under the red DOC here, which is an indication that shorts really don't have control of the situation or have really added significantly. We can see that they moved above zero. That's the first move back above zero since the latest rise, which means they're getting a little interested again, and we see it with the orange pop above the 13.5. We could probably expect a little softness the next day or so with that kind of peak, particularly since we ended up with short-term buyers. But here's again, you get short-term buyers completely resetting at the same time you're peaking there. I think it bodes well for support. It's no different than what we had in these previous ones when we had the same reset. Oftentimes when we get the DOC steel caught in between the range here of the negative 13 to the zero is a little bit, when it gets down to the negative 13.5, you can get a bit more of a follow through on a retrace. And we know that we've got several areas to go with that. So I think it's just a matter of watching that from an intraday standpoint and not being afraid to take short signals when they do come, because it's an indication that we've got a little frothiness right there. At the same time, you get a spike back up in the euro, keeping it elevated. You know, you have interest rates rising in the U.S., not in Europe, and yet you're getting a rise in the euro. So that's always funny to see those kinds of situations. Treasury rise here, still very elevated on that price tag. Oil right down at the baseline of the ABM. It's seen some softness going through, but we had the resets that caused the little spike to go up, but it's still seeing significant amount of short activity above the yellow ABM here in 1157 range, and it's been really difficult for it to maintain anything above that, which makes it easy when you have the ABM, because then you can just follow through with in this particular case, I would say anything above the magenta going back up would be the turnaround point, and you remain short as long as it's below that ABM green. And we talked about this, the dead cat bounce that had to come from gold, because we've got just too far. We were down at the negative 80 plus on the extreme. That's an automatic turnaround point. Also well below, I mean, geez, what did we reach? Minus 27 and minus 20 for the red on the DSC, and then usually also creates a similar kind of dead cat bounce. Now, is it likely to be sustainable? Yeah, not yet. We don't see that. We could possibly get the orange below the red DOC in that, but you didn't get a reset of the steel. It may shoot up above 13.5, which effectively would be like it looping around, coming back up from underneath. But those tend to be very short-lived bounces. And then for the 5K. So we had talked about this in the video yesterday where, riding that 50%, but that it was going to get to a narrow range where eventually you were just going to get stopped out on that one, which wasn't a bad thing. The other option was having a much lower stop, but we were expecting a little bit more weakness from the readings as it was coming down, and we didn't get the reset until we reached all the way down at the lows. We had a very close run right here, but it wasn't enough to go through, and you can see that caused it to, with the rising lows on the fib level short, made retested to the bottom and then continued a little bit further, which was really just a reset coming right back into here, just filling in a few of these last positive extremes that were right over here on the last take up, and that's all it really filled back in, and then we just moved right back to the same spot. So it depended on the time frame. I was talking about how an easy trade this is. If you get a little bit back from it, you can let it run, or if you were able to stay tight enough with it, once you dip below the 50%, then you just wait for it to return back above there on a new buy signal, and it didn't take long. It was actually at a lower level. And then it just went right back to the peaks and did the exact same thing, came back to the 50, and then we started seeing the rising lows with the flat top, and that usually calls for return to the bottom area there. In this case, with the rising lows, the range has become very narrow in that, so it wasn't anything too dramatic. I mean, we're still at an elevated area. A little hard pressed to see 85 come out of this at this particular point, but there's still excitement about the tax cut situation. I think that gets finalized, could be pretty stable. And then I thought I'd throw this one up there because why not? Bitcoin futures. We've talked about the pressure that it was putting on gold, that the bounce in gold was definitely attributable to the fact that Bitcoin was trading lower. We can only do 15-minute right now because anything further back and we just don't have enough data. So in another couple of days, start to be able to move to a tick chart and get even more accurate readings on it. But it definitely has potential. We can certainly see DOC with the resets of the orange underneath and bounces. So not impossible to trade it. Interesting to have it back up. Thought I'd show that. I've been waiting for it to get enough data points that we can actually look at something. But definitely want to see it in a tick version in a little bit larger time frames, even on a 50K, given there's not even enough data for a daily or anything yet. So when that takes place, I will put it up so that we can all have it to take a look at. As always, though, trade well, and I'll be out most of the evening, which will be during trading time for my birthday, but we'll be back at it and continue to post charts as they're relevant. As always, though, trade well.